So today we're going to learn about series. What a series is, it's when you add up a sequence. So some symbols, it'll be a lot of the same, but this S with a little n down there means the series to the nth term. So that means that you would add up however many terms there are. If there's 5 terms, you would add up 5 terms. A to the 1, we already know what that is from last one. It's the first term. A to the n is the nth term, or in these formulas, it'll be the last term in the sequence. D again is common difference, R is a common ratio, N is the number of terms. So there are 2 formulas again for arithmetic and geometric. So if you find it as an arithmetic pattern and the directions ask you to find the series or the sum, if it says either of those words, you would use one of these 2 formulas. Now this first one is shorter, but I think it's harder. And so I suggest that you use the second one more often. So the reason you want to use the second one is when you don't know the last term. So I will show you with problem number 1 that you could use the first one. So n in this case, so I'm going to use the first one here. N, the number of terms, is right here, 8. So 8, and it's over 2. A sub 1 is the first term. The first term in this case is 1765. Plus A sub n, that is the last term, so the last term in this case is negative 692. So then I put that into my calculator. And you should get bigger numbers with these problems because you're adding up this time. You're not finding the 8th term, you're adding up the first 8 terms. And I get 4292. So let me show you that you can use the second formula. So we're going to use this one now. So n divided by 2, so n again is 8. And then it's 2, and then a sub 1. A sub 1 is 1765. Plus, in parentheses, n minus 1. And then the common difference. So again, to find the common difference, what you do is you take the second term and you subtract the first term. So to get my common difference, I take 14, 14, and I subtract 1765. And if I would do that, I get negative 351. So then I grab my calculator. And I plug it in, and we should get the same answer. And notice I'm using negative instead of a minus 351. That makes a difference. And again, I get 4292. All right, the next one is also an arithmetic pattern. And so the reason that we can't use that first formula is because at the end it says dot, dot, dot. So it doesn't give you the last term there. So since it doesn't give the last term, we can't use the first one, so we have to use the second one. So that's why I say to just always use the second one, because it'll work for every problem. And so n divided by 2, so n in this case is 15 this time. And then 2, a sub 1. So a sub 1 is negative 2. Plus n minus 1. So n again is 8 or 15. And then the common difference. So the common difference in this case would be the second term, negative 12, minus the first term, negative 2. And that comes out to be negative 10. Okay, so then I just go to my calculator and I plug it in. And I get a negative, not a minus. And I get negative 1080. So that is the sum of the first 15 terms. So now for geometric, it's a little bit different, the formula. And so what you need to remember whenever you are doing this one is that the bottom needs to go in parentheses. And so number 5 is written like this. You can just put little commas in. It's 1, -3, 9, -27, so on. And so the first thing you do, you plug a sub 1 in. So a sub 1 is 1. And then parentheses 1 minus, and my r is the second term divided by the first term. So -3 divided by 1, which is -3. I'm going to put -3 in parentheses. And then it's to the n power. And so n in this case is 8. So I'm going to raise the -3 to an 8 power. And this is all over in parentheses 1 minus my r, which my r again was -3. So you go to your calculator. Notice I'm putting -3 in parentheses. I'm putting the 8 outside of the parentheses, hitting the right arrow, and then closing the top parentheses. Then I divide by, and the lower one I start with the parentheses. And I get -1640. All right, the next one. So a sub 1 in this case is 3. One minus my r is the second term divided by the first term, so 6 divided by 3 is 2. It's raised to the n power, which is 7 in this case. It's all over 1 minus your r. Okay, I plug it in my calculator. And it's all over 1 minus 2. I'm going to get 381. The next one is a very short formula. It's called infinite geometric series. It's a geometric sequence that never ends. You just add it up. So an example would be 1, 1/2, 1/4. This keep getting divided by 2, so it gets closer and closer to 0. So you're basically just estimating what it would be when you add it up. So the formula is smaller. All you do is put a sub 1, which in this case it's given to us, -3, over, and in parentheses, 1 minus my r. And so the second one, I'm going to get my calculator and do it all at once. My second one, my a sub 1 is 81. And I put that over 1 minus and my r. I take the second term and I divide it by the first term. If I would do 27 divided by 81, I would get 1/3. I have to put that in parentheses. So then I grab my calculator to do both of these. So for the first one, I do -3 divided by, in parentheses, 1 minus 4. And I get 1. Then the second one, I do 81 divided by 1 minus, and in parentheses, 1/3. And I get 121.5. So 1 and 121.5. The last thing we're going to look at, it looks really tricky, but it's not. So series can be represented as a compact form called sigma notation. That's what that E means. E stands for summation. What you do is make a table and evaluate the function from the first value of x to the last. So if you look at this right here, there will be a formula next to the E. It will be a first value below the E, a last value above the E. So if we're looking at the example, I have a 1 down bottom and a 7 up top. So that's why it starts at 1 and ends at 7. So then what I did is I took that 1 and I plugged it in. When I plugged it in, 3 times 1 plus 1 is 4. Then I plugged 2 in. 3 times 2 plus 1 is 7. And so on and so forth. So you plug them all in. And then what you do is you add up the y column. And so there is a quick calculator trick. And so all you do is you hit Math 0. It brings that up, and you're just going to fill it in. You need to always use x as the variable, even if it has another one. So it doesn't say x down bottom of mine, but I have to put x equals 1. Up top, I put the 7. I go down and I put in 3x plus 1. And then I just hit enter, and there's where the 91 comes from. So if we do the next ones, so Math 0, I know it says k, but you are going to just use x. Go up top, put in 9. And you get 5. Make sure you do x minus 2. And I get 207. So that's the answer to the first one. I'm going to do the other one while I have this up. Math 0. So this has m this time, so I just use x. I put 15 up top, and just 4x. I get 480. Let me do the last one. It says I, but again, you're just going to use x, not the I button. Again, 3x. And I get 45. So it was 207, 480, and 45. You'll have a quiz tomorrow on the video, and so your word is Batman. So remember that, write it down.